Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending. And today we're going to talk about real estate investing. And the topic is what assets out there that are recession proof and is a hedge against inflation. Welcome everyone. My name is SeeWing Yee from the Yee Real Estate Network. And my special guest is Maureen McCann from SpartanInvest.com. Welcome.
Thank you,
Maureen.
SeeWing.
All right, all right. So we have something very important to share out there. So let me share my screen. So let's get to the bottom of this. And for investors and whoever alike, this will really validate what's really going on. I mean, there's a lot of negative headlines out there. There's a lot of misleading information out there from the general public, from the mass media, and from those YouTubers that that always want clickbait and they showing crash video. Oh, real estate is crashing 80%, whatever, right?
I don't know where they're getting their data from, but okay.
I know. Talk about credibility or lack of. Oh, well, I digress. All right. So again, here's our title. What asset class is recession proof and is a hedge against inflation? Again, my name is SeeWing Yee, and Marine's information is down here. McCann at SpartanInvest.com. We are both turnkey providers, and Marine and her company are promoting out-of-state investment properties, mostly single-family homes in the Sweet Home, Alabama state, and in Tennessee also, and in Northern Virginia. So they cover a very large region of the booming Sun Belt, which is Alabama is part of the Sun Belt. Believe it or not, is part of the South and Southeast. So you know what area of the market is you can find affordable homes, lower price homes that can cash flow. So for investors to achieve long-term wealth. So you may continue. If you buy single-family home residential investing, mostly there are some duplex and triplex and maybe fourplex available. So I'll stick to 1 to 4 unit. And income property is history's most powerful and proven and most attractive, and the greatest tax-favored multi-dimensional real estate asset class. Wow! Because you get cash flow. You get depreciation tax benefits, you get long-term equity growth, you get appreciation equity, you get leverage with a loan with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So what more can you ask for, right? That is the greatest wealth building vehicle in history of mankind. Income properties, specifically single family homes. Am I right, Maureen?
You are 100% right. I wouldn't be on this phone call if you weren't.
Exactly. Now, Maureen, you and I know the government's official statistics and the consumer price index state that the inflation rate is around between 8%, whatever. You and I know the real inflation is not 8%, is right now inflation is a 31-year high. All right. But if you look at when you go shopping, whatever, here are the consumer price increases the last few years. Mind-boggling. I mean, can hit people's pocketbook. Look at this. What? Anything else you need to share, Maureen, on this real cost of inflation?
This is a really good. This is my first time seeing this. This is a really good graphic, SeeWing. And yes, I mean you can see as a consumer, our dollar is getting stretched in all of these areas and many more that are not listed here. But yeah.
Yep, that's right. So as consumers, as investors out there, you need to find ways to beat inflation, and putting your money in a mattress or keeping your cash in the savings and checking account that earn you less than 1% interest rate. You buying fixed rate bonds, you buying into those treasuries and money market. I mean, you're losing money due to inflation. So you're just losing your money. So
you know what I had to say, SeeWing, on that slide? I know that wasn't your slide, but you probably got that from somewhere else. But what would be a real mind-blowing if we added your cash dollar on there, right? And have cash earning whatever, wherever you have your cash sitting right now, is if it's in cash underneath your mattress, or if it's in, I don't know, a money market, even a bond at whatever 1%. I don't even know what bonds are right now, but if you got cash, everything else is going up and you've got cash. So gasoline's up 51%. If your money is not making more than the inflation on gas, it is just eroding in value exponentially.
Yep. That's right. People need to understand this. Yep, agree. So we have a solution, as you know. So before we get to that, another thing. Now we just discussed real estate investing. Rent income property is a hedge against inflation, which, along with the 30-year fixed rate mortgage to finance your investment property. Has there ever been a recession in history where U.S. housing continued to climb in price? I'm not saying we go enter into recession. There's a 50% chance that we may enter into a recession, and if we are, I feel it'll be a very mild, quick recession, because you look at the economy in general. I know the economy is not growing as fast as we would like to, but we're seeing job reports. The job market is still very strong. There are, in certain sectors, retail and in the retail industry and travel and whatever, there are more jobs and there are available job openings. And I have not seen any trends about increasing job losses, whatever. So the economy is humming along real good. Even if there is a technical recession, it'll be very, very mild. But the good news is, if you look at history, the people that does not understand history are doomed to repeat the past. I don't know whether I said it right. I think you know what I'm saying. So let's look at housing. Housing stays strong through all the recessions, with one exception, which is a 2008 market crash, which is a exception to the rule. Yeah. But look at this. Look at all the recessions in the past 50, 60 years. Each time the recession has occurred, right afterwards, real estate continues to stay strong. Let me prove it to you a little bit more. So back in 1980, 81, 91, 2001, 2008 is the only exception, and 2020, right after the recession, housing prices have increased in value, right? Recession does not equal a housing crash. So what are your thoughts, Maureen?
Data does not lie. It does not lie. So for any of those, I like your terms that you use, those clickbaiters, those YouTubers who are out there, with their scare tactics and negative messaging. Where's their data, right? We can go back to 1980 and look through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 recessions. And 4 out of the 6 recessions showed an increase in the value of owning a hard asset like real estate. So if that is not a strong enough message, I don't know if it's ever going to get through. But this is so telling. Data does not lie, and this is very telling that recession doesn't mean a housing crisis. And usually, if we do go into a recession, or if we even are, it's still debatable. There's some debate out there. Usually interest rates fall during a recession.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, great you mentioned that, because I almost forgot. Right after any kind of recession, mild or otherwise, the interest rate will fall, which is great news. So think about it. I mean, no one can predict the future. No one have a crystal ball. But right now, yeah, we're getting, we're at 5 to 6% interest rate, which is still a historical low, believe it or not, and people are freaking out. Well, mainly because this shock of increasing the rate from 3% to 6% overnight, that kind of a shocking a lot of people. But people don't need to freak out. It's still relatively low interest rate environment. But yeah, I mean, after this any kind of recession, interest rate goes down, historically speaking. So the future, the next few years could be very bright. So anyway, this slide shows inflation is a silent wealth killer, right? And so we already discussed the first part. Over here, if you invest in any other asset class, bonds and traded stocks and cash or whatever, I mean, you're not moving ahead. Inflation gonna eat up all your money. And here's the paragraph that we need to resonate us, people that are buying primary homes to live and investors buying rental properties. Here it is. Property prices and rental income tend to, we mean rental income, the renter gonna pay you, gonna pay your rent. So you can make you rich. Property prices and rental income tend to rise when inflation rises, making rental real estate a great hedge against inflation. Real estate is a hard asset that is naturally limited in supply. We're not making any more land anymore in the US. There's limiting supply based on the amount of available land. Investments backed by hard assets have the ability to retain value when inflation rises. And then here's the big catch. Inflation is good for what, Maureen? You tell me.
Debasing debt.
I'm sure you have multiple answers for this. I'll say it
Yes.
again. Inflation is good for, go ahead.
Inflation is good for retaining value in hard assets, in debasing your debt, making it easier to pay back your loan. And this inflation, you want to have debt, and as much debt as you can, good debt that produces cash flow during inflationary times.
Wow, that's well said. I mean, this is well said.
And I recognize that it's hard for people to wrap their head around that, especially if they're trained or if they've read Dave Ramsey, right? This reminds me of a conversation that I just had with an investor, and he's very much a big Dave Ramsey fan. And I think Dave Ramsey, he gives a lot of good information on consumer debt and how to not get into consumer debt or to get yourself out of it. But it then paralyzes, I think, some investors, because they're like, debt is bad. I can't have any debt. And it's like, well, let's go to the Robert Kiyosaki side of the pendulum, right? Where you use debt and taxes. There's a really good book that he wrote called Why the Rich Get Richer. And I can summarize the book in 2 words. You use debt and taxes you use debt and taxes to grow your wealth. Sounds very counterintuitive to Dave Ramsey's message. I understand. And so you as investors are trying to figure out, in your mind, who do I believe? Do I believe this camp, Kiyosaki camp, or do I believe Camp Ramsey? And they're both there's elements of both that are real and applicable. So consumer debt is bad. I love that. Thank you, Dave Ramsey, for that message. But where he should have gone further is, but utilize debt that produces cash flow, that increases in value over time, that you've got the loan pay down effect. And then especially if you've got, okay, think about this. I guess the best way I could say it is this, is the debt that you have on real estate. Let's just call it, I'm going to just use a far out number. Just, you've got $500,000, right? In rental properties in debt, right? But that debt is holding on to, let's call it 5 single family rental properties that are appreciating over time. The rent's going up over time. The renter is paying down the principal, which is putting more money in your pocket year over year. You get to depreciate those 5 assets every single year on your tax schedule. So that's reducing the money that goes out, which means you're earning more. And then your debt that you have today, let's call it 500,000. Tomorrow, it loses 9% of its value, right? Your debt just went down. So that's what investors don't get sometimes on the Ramsey side of the equation, is because they think debt is bad. but no, on the contrary, you want to acquire hard assets with leverage in today's dollars and pay them back in tomorrow's dollars, because today you're buying in dollars, tomorrow you're paying back in dimes. And that is the power of debt during inflation.
Maureen, absolutely true. You have a great recap. By the way, not all wealth money experts are created equal. They don't know it all. It's just you have to be careful who you listen to, right? The alleged experts out there, all right? So be careful out there, okay? Anyway, as we conclude this presentation and today, the recap is that I know whether we are in a recession or not, it's still a good time to invest in real estate as long as you buy in the right market. You buy a property that are low cost, that have a rent, you can collect the rent that can support your debt service. You use a good turnkey provider with great property management, great track record, such as Spartan Invest, Maureen's company, who offers some great service, a turnkey, one-stop shop service, including property management, the whole 9 yards. Invest for long term. If you're a real estate investor from out of state, anywhere in the country, and anywhere in the world for that matter, you should have the confidence and the comfort level to trust her team. Whether you're buying one rental property through her team or 10, you can continue to become a remote out-of-state investor. You can spend very little of your time managing your property because they will do it for you. So you can focus your energy to do what's important, the time that you have, what's important for yourself and your family, like travel, focus on other areas of your life, which will give you freedom and happiness, and let all the management and delegate everything else to a team of turnkey providers that will help you monitor your real estate portfolio over time so you could live the rest of your life in your own terms. All right. So any last quick second to add before we conclude our day and this video, Maureen?
I would love to find something super inspiring to say, but it's just like I would just say to the investors that are listening, just follow the data, right? Think about what sounds right, what feels right. The intuition is there, that feeling that you get in your stomach when you sense good energy or bad energy is there for a reason. It's survival. So think about, watch these episodes that SeeWing and I do, and just kind of check your gut and say, are these two legit, and are they supporting with third-party data? Or are they, what's our intent on presenting this kind of information? Because nobody's paying us, we're just here because we know that there's false narratives that can dominate the world and dominate the mindset. And we stand adamantly against those clickbaiters. So we're here to make sure that you get the real deal, the real message. And we hope that it comes through loud and clear because it would benefit you and your family for a long term.
Once again, powerful words of wisdom coming from Maureen McCann. Thank you so much for sharing your great message. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening. This is SeeWing Yee. Have a nice day. Have a blessed day. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.